it's a subject I think a lot about, and I think more and more about. And I try and think about the things that make us happy and fulfilled. And I even thought about writing a book once, trying to track down friends of mine from college that are from sort of diverse pursuits in life to really ask that question, what is it that's made you happy in your life? What consistencies are there? I haven't done that, but I have some intuition about it. And there's the old maxim that nobody dies wishing they'd worked more. And I think we're so work obsessed in this country that we miss a lot of the quality of life. And so, not that I don't think that work is important and needs to be fulfilling, but I think you've got to manage it in a way and manage the stress in your life, really. And I think most work, for most people, has stress involved. Mine has a lot, and so I try and find ways to make sure that I de-stress and eliminate the stress in my life. That's an interesting concept. How many days do we have to live? And if we thought about that, might we live more fully in the time that we've got? And so I calculated my lifespan, and I said, okay, I've got fairly good chromosomes and family history, unless I get hit by a car, I have some horrible disease invade, that I'm likely to live till X. And then I said, okay, that works out to, it's like 10,000 something days. So I went out and I bought 10,000 beads, and this is my jar of life. So this represents all the days of my life that I hope I'll live, on average. And so every day I take out one, and for just 30 seconds, 15 seconds, I contemplate that this is a day in my life, and I should really value it, cherish it, think about it, and make sure that I, love the people in my life, cherish my friendships, do good work, because this is all I got. And then so I put it into here.
You can't recycle them.
I can't. Well, hopefully, what'll happen is someday this will be empty, and I'll start going back the other way, and I'll get some freebies, some additional days. But that's a simple way for me to sort of step back and remind myself of the things that are important, and to sort of say, God, we're really pretty damn lucky. 300 years ago, I might have been living in squalor and working in pretty tough conditions, and who knows, 200 or 300 years from now, as difficult as times are right now, these may be the best of times, historically. And I think we get so carried away that it's important to step back and just reflect on those things. I've also written a bit, and I'll send you a column about how I think we're overloaded with information. And I just wrote a sort of an anti-tech column about Twitter. And I mean, the notion was that, more communication is not necessarily better communication. At a certain point, it becomes noise. And sure, we can all multitask, but unless you can step back, you really have time to think and about the quality of the conversations that you're having, then I think that we miss a lot. And the problem for most people is I think we have ambition, just a natural ambition to fill our lives up rather than to do just the opposite, which is what we need to do. One of the things that, and I'll send you this column, but the column was basically saying, okay, every other day now I'm getting asked to join a new social network. It's first, it was email, then IM, then LinkedIn, and then Twitter, then, on and on and on, Facebook. Have you, and there's this drive again towards accumulation of greater networks of more and more people. And again, I think that there's just sort of a natural tendency to think that we need to be connected. And then I realized at a certain point that, I was spending so much time dealing with this expanding universe that I was spending less and less time with the people who really mattered in my life. And a friend of mine said something that I love, which is, I'm not going to start putting in applications for new friends until I do a better job with my old ones. And so what I've tried to do now is, I don't actually have a list, but I sort of have a mental notion of about 10 or 20 people that I just say, you know what, friendship requires nourishment and interaction and quality of time. I mean, I just realized I live a pretty good and interesting life, and I meet lots and lots and lots of people. But most of those relationships are pretty shallow, and they're just sort of acquaintances, and there's lots of them, and they're interesting, but they're not deep. And so I just said, figure out a universe that's small enough that you can remember kids' names, remember birthdays. I have something that happens to me when I run that I call a Zen-apse, and I think it's just a form of meditation. But when I do long runs, which I can't do as much as I used to do because the parts are starting to wear down, but I used to go on long runs a lot, and now I do maybe once a week or so, but they're long enough so that what happens is I can sort of start going deeper and deeper into this sort of mental state that gets simpler and simpler to the point where I really kind of lose consciousness or awareness anyway. I mean, obviously I'm running and I'm aware of myself, but I'm not really. I'm so deep, thinking so deeply that it has the sense of like running along at mile 3, and then suddenly you're at mile 5 and you have no recollection of between mile 3 and 5, which it just means that I just was thinking so deep, that I literally kind of lost consciousness of the outside world, and I find really great thoughts. I mean, there are thoughts that come out of that, although it's a really deep contemplative state.
So do you get both? Do you get sort of thoughts that you might actually remember and use as well as kind of a nothingness play?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's both sort of a deep ether, but also pull stuff out of there that I never would have thought of before. I'll tell you one piece of advice is that we travel with them every year. I mean, we started early so they got used to it, because pretty soon they're going to get to an age where they have friends and they never want to go anywhere. So we got in the habit early on of really, unplugging and going somewhere that was not near, it was not necessarily comfortable, it was different. Mm-hmm. So we really had a collective experience that they got really used to doing, and doing as a family. Mm-hmm. And it really helped us bond, and something we look forward to and we continue to do now. It's a sort of a Darwinian trait for me, just because I've had to adapt in a world that's really crazy. I mean, I live in the world of politics and political campaigns, and they don't get much crazier than that. And I just learned over time that that I had to maintain calm in the middle of those storms, and that I learned over time that the people that could do that were really the most productive people in campaigns. It's easy. I mean, I think a lot of people in life think that they can impress people by making more noise and making more motion, and I think just the inverse is true. Mm-hmm. That if you're in a business situation or other situations, the people who are creating the most turbulence are usually trying to cover up for something else. I think you just got to turn stuff off. Whatever way you do it, you gotta turn work off. You gotta turn stress out. You just gotta find ways to get off the treadmill, and I think people do it in lots of different ways. But the society we live in, I think most people don't. It's part of our American culture. People don't even take time off. They don't take vacations. They work their weekends, and the next thing you know, they're 70 years old, and it's too late.